What's up guys, Scotty here from the Blue Coconut family and welcome back to another Cities Skylines tutorial. Today we are back in the tutorial city and we're going to be continuing our look. I know I did this a while back, but if you can cast your mind back to the water tutorials that I looked at. If not, I'm going to put some cards above back to those videos. But today we're going to continue the look sort of into water, because it is under that area, of what happens if you get flooded in your city. So this is exactly what's happened in this part of the city. You can see we've got a very minor flood, and that's because we, for some reason here, I'm going to accidentally turn it back on. Oh no, it's such a shame that this part of the city is flooding really severely. Yeah, I'm doing this for demonstration purposes if you haven't realised. So you can see that these buildings here are flooding quite severely, and what can you do? So you've got a couple of options. One, you can quite simply just leave it, and over time the building will deflood over the water, evaporating if it's similar to this sort of situation. But if it's a little bit more severe, then that can take a very, very long time, and your residents might move out, or even might destroy the building if it's left for a very long time. So there's actually a service that came out within the natural disasters DLC that can exactly help in this situation. So it's under the water and sewage and heating tab, so you click here and it's this one, the pumping service. So what exactly is this? This is a it's like a service that you can have where it has a group of trucks that can go around your city with big water tanks, and they can suck up water that is from flooded buildings, and then it comes back to this like service building and released into the sewage system, so it helps kind of flooded buildings and make your city run again. So in theory it's like an emergency service, it's like an emergency plumber. So once again, this building is very large and has a very high noise pollution. As you can see there, the ring around it is fairly large, so you don't want to place it in the middle sort of bit of your city. You want to place it in kind of your industrial kind of areas and suburbs. So this area is quite well used, but it's very good. So here's my water tank, so I'm actually going to place it in this sort of area. Once again, because it is a water service building, it does require to be connected to your water grid using a water pipe, and you can see there, unlike most other buildings where it's like kind of the edge, it's right in the middle here, but you can simply just connect it. Once it's connected, it goes sort of like a turquoisey green, like that, so it's operating, and then you can see these little service trucks being sent out, and they say they are locating flood water. So once this goes up there, let's follow it. So what happens with these trucks? They can hold a certain capacity, and then they are then kind of sent out to the flooded areas inside your city and suck up water from affected areas and buildings. Once they're at capacity, or the flood water is gone, they're sent back to your pumping service building, and they release the water into the pumping service kind of reservoir tank. Now the reservoir holds a million cubic meters of water, so it has a high capacity, and then that is actually released through the kind of the sewer system over time. So it won't become flooded, it won't overload your sewage system, it will just kind of add on to it, so it is a very useful kind of thing, and over time it will just gently release that, helping any of your buildings that are flooded and across your city. The service building itself, while we're waiting for this to get to the affected area, the building itself has a capacity of 10 vehicles. So if you do have severe flooding in your city, well, I would hope that you would kind of look at resolving that issue rather than kind of just putting a plaster or band-aid onto the problem. I would hope that you are completely looking at ways of fixing your flooding rather than just constantly sucking up the water. This is a very temporary fix in the wake of a disaster. So another very good use for this sort of building is if you have a tsunami hit your city, and as you know, we've looked at tsunami in the past. Here's the card above if you haven't seen the video of me looking at tsunamis. Tsunamis are very devastating, and what we can do is they send a huge tidal wave across your city, so it's not a very temporary flood it can cause, and naturally that is very bad. And what it does is, yeah, of course, temporary flooding across your city, which these trucks can then be sent out across your city after the wave has gone through to help kind of restore services across your city for any buildings that are still flooded, and naturally then they are then all resolved. Is this still going? Is this still flooded over here? Sort of. So I'm just going to turn it back on just so we still get some flooded water. Yeah, that should be about it. Oh no, that little town we built a couple videos ago is flooding. That's really bad. That would be a shame if something would happen to it. So what we'll do is, I've pretty much covered that building, but what we'll do is we'll see these trucks in action, and yeah, we'll see how it works, and that's pretty much where I'll leave it. But yeah, so these are very useful for disasters and also very temporary sort of problems of flooding within your city. They're not good for kind of long-term flooding. So for example, if you build a dam and upriver you haven't quite noticed that the sudden rise in water causes your dam to overflow, and naturally that has some drastic impacts within your city because of terrain or something similar to that. Then you can sort of understand how this could be very useful in the sense of, well, actually no, you can see how this is very unuseful in the sense of you've got a basically redirected river through your city. A small fleet of trucks trying to desperately suck up that amount of water is just not going to do anything. It's going to be fairly useless. Whereas you would in that case go through editing terrain to then lesser the impact right there. I might as well speed up a little bit of time because I forgot I hadn't done that. And we'll see how this truck does. These trucks are very nicely modelled. They are very similar to sort of water pumping trucks that we have here in the UK. Yeah, post below in the comment section. Are these trucks that look very similar to you? Yeah. We can also see stuck in the traffic as well. We've got several of these trucks. So we've got two there ahead of us. We've got two behind us. And I expect they're not the only ones. There is quite a severe amount of traffic up here. Is it because they're all expecting to turn right here, or is it they're all stuck behind buses? It's because they're all stuck behind buses. Brilliant. Where are our trucks? Trucks are here. So it's still a little bit far away, but that's fine. We can say that's fine. I'm going to upgrade the road while we wait for them to turn up. That should speed up time. There we go. They have arrived. Here's the first one. And the water has gone. Once again, causing a flood. Temporary flood. There we go. Severe flood in this little part of town. So we can see here, here's the truck coming. And it's going to go and find some water. There you go. So it's found this building here. And then it's going to go through and suck up. So it's now clear. So it's now cleared, locating more flood water. And it's going to go building to building, sucking up any of that water that is within the buildings. And we see there the water actual level is dropping drastically and very quickly, so it does actually get rid of the water. We can see that this is already only at 2%, so it is not. So they can hold quite a considerable amount of water. It is definitely worth noting. Yeah. So yeah, that's pretty much it, guys. Very useful indeed. Comment below, do you have these in your city? Have you found them useful? Have you found them fairly useless? Oh, we haven't looked at the costing. So the cost of this building, so the down payment is 100,000 credits, monies. So it's 100,000 down payment. That's fairly expensive. Yeah, I find that very expensive. I'm not quite sure why it's that costly. And the upkeep is 1,600 a week. That's also very expensive for a service which you might need, you might not need. But yeah, comment below. Does that feel a bit expensive to you, or would you want something a little bit kind of cheaper, or something maybe a little bit more useful for your money? I'd love to know. But yeah, that's pretty much it. Big thumbs up to anybody who's part of our kind of emergency response teams across the world. And if you like this video, give it a thumbs up, give it a like, and also subscribe. You guys, you know what to do. I've been Skottyy from the Blue Coconut family. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you on the next video. Bye!